What's up, everybody? Welcome to the final podcast
So sad, but happy.
of 2025. 2025. All right, I got Matt and Mike with me again.
Hey,
We're our holiday podcast cheerleaders.
We just did this.
Let's do this. Show of hands. Let's go. If you're listening to us, this is the last podcast of 2025. Matt, 2025 was good, bad, ugly, and different.
Fast.
Well, it's always fast.
No, but I mean, it went by. I think it was good overall. I will say this. How's this for a word? Unbalanced.
Unbalanced, okay.
We went sports heavy, and I mean, I didn't miss a week of church. Let's go. But we traveled all over. And
So what was your favorite highlight of 2025? And I have a feeling it had something to do with your son playing basketball somewhere.
well, my daughter. I might give it to my daughter. My daughter made Southeasterns. In
Sorry,
swim.
Noah, you didn't make the cut.
Yeah, my daughter made Southeasterns in swim, and I was super proud of her, which was a big deal. So
I know that's a big deal, but you didn't coach your daughter. You coached your son, so I figured that would be the...
yeah, we lost. Well, we lost in the championship game in
Did you
double
get
overtime.
kicked out of a basketball game in 2025?
I did not.
You were close?
I was close. Yeah, and the ref goes to church here, and
Perfect.
yeah, but we
Way to be a light. Last week, be a light. Way to be a light.
we've made up for it. But I was unbalanced.
Unbalanced. Okay, so Mike, what is your word of 2025? How was it? Can you give me...
You know, it was. I had a really good year this year. I hate to say that because then it's like you kind of set yourself up, you know. But the funny thing is that you say that unbalanced because I felt like this year I had more balance than I did in 2024. I felt like at the end of 2024, and if you remember, you and I talked about it a little bit. I was like, oh man, I am fried.
Yeah.
It's like give me some downtime here at the holidays, you know, that the few days around New Year's, and this year it was like, okay, lessons learned. And it's like, I felt like and honestly, it's like started out the year really good. And I feel like as the year went on, I got more intentional about that to say, okay, it's like, you got to say no more. You got to have blank space on your calendar, things like that. But it was a good year. And honestly, I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah, we need to learn from it. How about you? What about you?
I don't want to be negative Nancy. Sorry, Nancy's. I would say Survive 25 would have been my
very
Survive
nice.
25.
Yeah.
Because, it started obviously a year ago with mom having surgery. And so we went into 2025 in a very dark place. From really January to May, it was every day my sister and I trying to figure out mom until she died May 1st. Yeah. And then you're kind of reeling from that. But it's been a good year spiritually, family-wise, church-wise. Church-wise, it was
We talked about
unbalanced maybe. There's so many ebbs and flows. I think that's just the nature of human nature anymore. It's like we push the gas, we ride the big wave, and then we're like, all right, and then we kind of went through a dip here and there, but we've definitely ended on a huge high note.
Yeah.
We've surged, but I don't even know how to explain it. I think for me mentally, surviving 25, coming to the grips of having no parent anymore, which mom and dad were huge in my life and ministry. And so then you're in uncharted waters, And so for me, I am flipping the script. I am looking at momentum 2026.
That's good.
Vision in motion. And we'll talk a lot about that. But the church is set up for some really good things. I mean, our church has always been driving hard, and we've sustained a lot of momentum, but how do we keep that going? Mm-hmm. And I think God has already given us vision and a blueprint into the future. We just got to put it into motion now. Yeah. Vision in motion. So this week, as we record this podcast and it comes out, it's on December 29th. So this week was traditional for us. I like it. I don't know if people like it, but I like it. Mm-hmm. Looking back to look forward.
I love it.
So we just go back for a minute. We've really only had 2 services to do it, to recap the year, because we went through a lot. We've all poured blood, sweat, and tears into a lot of things that we bring about week to week to week to grow our faith. And so I just kind of went back over really 4 or 5 series that spoke to us. We started with Build For It. Remember, if you go back in time, Built For It was supposed to be something totally different than it turned out to be.
True.
Yep. We jumped into the book of Nehemiah. It was really a lesson in Nehemiah. And we gave a band away that I'm still wearing today. You guys don't wear them because you're not Christians. But do something.
Hold on a second.
Uh-oh.
I will say I can wear it for about a week or two. And then after that, it breaks my wrist out for some reason. So that's why if you watch,
I got you.
For those who watch on the weekends, that's why the Do Something band is on the mic, because this way, it's always there. But
Well, if you go back in time, Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah was about rebuilding what God had torn down, restoring what sin destroyed, and repenting of our part in it and returning to God. So it was a perfect beginning of the year series. I started the whole thing out, which I'll start again right here. The last week, first week, I talked about complaining. That we're complainers. And the do something challenge for week 1 a year ago, I wanted to say the same thing this week, the last few days of the year. What are you complaining or not complaining? If you're a complainer, do something about it.
Yeah.
Quit.
Have you changed? Have you changed at all in 25, or are you still, like you say, a culture of complainer? Are we still a culture of complainer?
I'm still complaining about health, and as far as I'm 55 and my knee hurts, this hurts, blah blah blah. My wife is like, "You're never at 21 again, so get over it." And I think I do that too much. I think I complain too much. Like, oh, my back, what's wrong with my knee? It's just. And I think that can easily, I'm convicted about that. But there have been things in my life strategically this year that I've walked away from complaining. And I'm just like, you know what? I just got to I got to give that to God.
But you challenged us, right? You said Nehemiah, he complained a little bit, but then he was like, but then he prayed and then he acted. And so that was the challenge. All right, so complain, but now pray and act.
The big drop the mic challenge for me was what that pastor said a long time ago, especially at the end of the year. We don't need to read through the Bible in a year. We need to pray through the Bible.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I think I've done more of that this year, where I've read the Bible in a more of a prayerful way. I think it's come out in our series too. We did a series, Listen to the Music, which was about Psalms, and I think it is amazing to me, and we always talk about that, how a year unfolds with the series and how they all kind of lock in on each other.
yeah. Oh, it's absolutely true. And that was one thing that I did like that you brought out in this series. You asked the question, and in the clip we showed, you asked, have you ever wept for the state of your world? And that message, it went beyond just, are there things that you don't like, but on a spiritual level, does it bother you? Or do you just kind of shrug and move on? Because a lot of people in our society, we complain about everything. We're quick to leave bad reviews about every experience or anywhere we go or whatever. And like you said, does what you see on a spiritual level, does it call you to action? Does it cause you to seek God more in your life? Does it cause you to live differently and to hopefully go out and make a positive difference on your world? Obviously bigger than just, for the sake of, like you've said many times, handing out water bottles or whatever, but are you making a positive difference for God in your world of influence? And I love the spin on that, because especially that transition last January, there was a lot of complaining going on in our world for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So the Do Something band, the reason I wear it, and I'm very intentional to wear it every day, is because a part of that Build For It series and that Do Something challenge was to think about the promises of God. And who would have ever, I guess I would have thought of it because Mom was in a bad spot when I started to preach this series after that. But promises of God, God will never leave us alone in life. God can get us through whatever we're facing. He can provide for our needs. He can forgive us of our sins. And I just think about that, especially this week. What are you hanging on to? And I go back to the conversation me and Jerry Floyd had about unused gift cards.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's like, I love people that buy gift cards at Jay Floyd's and they never redeem them.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think ultimately, how many of us have walked through this year with unused, all these gifts and promises of God, and we're not using them?
Right.
And so, hey, I challenge you all. This was a unique year for me because normally one series always stands out. I'm like, that's my favorite. There's not even a question. But I really have 3 series that I cannot decide which was the best.
Was Build For It one of them?
Build For It was not one of them.
But
the
the
next
next
series
one was.
I Am
For sure, yeah.
was very good. Never done it before. We went through all the I Am statements of Christ that led us into Easter. That really, 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 really impacted me.
Yeah.
So what was y'all's take on that? You got anything that stands out?
Well, first of all, this is probably one of the few things that I will say that I have ever agreed with Oprah on, because your message, the bread of life, I love bread.
Yeah, I love bread. That was a great video. But it is funny that particular week, I think that we opened with that one.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about that in the message.
Yeah.
Is people have such a manna mentality. Yeah. And I preached on that so many times. Oh my gosh, is that not real?
What is that? Or
it's just, what is it? But yet we're all looking for something.
Yeah.
And yet we don't ever really ingest Christ in a way of like it's total assimilation. It's like, you know what? Jesus says, I'm the bread of life. And if we to take that bread and eat it, I thought, that's definitely, you can't get any better than preaching the statements of Christ, and especially in a real life context. So all of you, I mean, what a challenge to go back and listen to those I am statements and to think about that. Don't just leave it in a distant memory of like, oh yeah, I kind of maybe remember something about that, but there's just so many good things to say about the I am series.
Week 3, I am the door. That was a huge one for me because you really you challenge people. And I think the verbiage was, are we letting Jesus into our personal life? Which I thought was like, whoa, okay. Because you even said something on the verge of, now I'm going to meddle a little bit. I'm going to, we play church well, but like, are we letting Jesus into our personal life? Why aren't we answering the door and letting that full assimilation of Jesus kind of lead our life? And you were like, man, they don't hear because they're distracted. They're too busy, unbalanced maybe, where we talked about it. They feel too far away.
Matt was unbalanced this last year.
Yeah. But I that one I think was really, really great. And I love the visual of that.
I think you were unbalanced before 25, but anyway.
Maybe. I think 24, I was on fire. I was good.
So one of the reasons I loved the I Am series so much, it wasn't, and this is, you got to take me for what it's worth. It wasn't necessarily the I Am statements that drew me there first. It was that Kane Brown country singer song that I resonated, the song called I Am. Yeah. And that's how my mind works. We did that secular song.
Older or something?
The chorus goes, I'm scared of growing up. Yeah. I'm scared of growing old. I'm scared of falling short. I'm scared of the unknown. I'm burning on the edge. I know right where I stand. I know the road ahead, though, makes me who I am. Yeah. And we're like, you don't even know the road ahead. We had I would have never thought when we came out of 24 that what I went through in 25.
Right on.
But I am definitely scared of growing up.
Yep.
More scared each day of growing old, just like, man, life's passing me by. Scared of falling short, letting people down, and scared of the unknown. I think everybody is there, and it's amazing that 2,000 years ago, Jesus would have said, wait, I know you don't understand this, but this is who I am. Yeah. And that's how Faith and Life Collide work. That's the essence. That's the secret sauce to our church. Yeah. A series like that where people can go, man, that song was all over the radio when we did it. Mm-hmm. And yet I don't know who I am really. That's most people. But Jesus goes, hey, listen, this is who I am and this is everything. And I think that was, that was just a next level.
Right.
We need to do more of it. I always challenge myself, and then I go back to topical and this, that, and the other. But going through the book of Nehemiah, like we did, going through these I am statements in the Gospels of Christ. When Music Speaks was really an overview of the entire book of the Psalms. Yep. I think more of that is definitely coming. The next series was something I had in mind for a long, long time.
I think it's my favorite one. I think.
And again, that's why I can't pick from one to the other. But Lake Life was living authentic, kingdom effective lives. Everybody likes the lake at the summer. It was a good idea, especially in our community, because Douglas Lake is such a big part of it. And I just think the idea of Lake Life, the goal of the series was, what it looks like to follow Christ. Yeah. Christ called his disciples around the lake. And I think we don't even understand the word follow anymore. Yeah. And that's how I started. We had to define the word following because following is different. Yeah. So what'd y'all get? Yeah. So Lake Life was your favorite?
Yeah, establishing that first part is, following means something different than it did in the time of Jesus. Today, it's so surfacey, with followers on social media.
So you and I literally just talked about it early this morning because Matt tends to come in very early. I'm here very early. We try to solve the world's problems for a few minutes before we get working. True. But what did I say in that series? The greatest threat to the church are fans.
Yeah, 100%.
Not followers.
Yeah, exactly.
And we just talked about that today.
We did, 100%.
Fans.
And that's the hardest thing in ministry is, the ones that I'm not getting what I want, and I don't know, the first three, like Build For It, I Am, and Lake Life parallel each other very well. And I think maybe that was God working on you in what he wanted for the church, because it was all about, man, we need to get out of the driver's seat. We need to pray. We need to seek Christ, and we need to let him lead. And then how can we effectively be more like Christ? So Lake Life was so good in so many different angles because it was real life. How can we apply? You did a sermon in that series, Pastor Mike, that, making waves. And there's times that it's good to do that. And I don't know. I just think the Lake Life series, I took a ton of notes and I grabbed it and I applied it to my life. And I even wrote it like, we need to let Jesus lead. He's the rescuer. We need to sit and trust him. And it's very difficult in a very distracted world, but Lake Life was great.
It's funny because usually, and week 1 of that series definitely set the tone for the series like it tends to do by design. But really, in a way, I think week number 2 was a very important.
I would agree with you. I would think week 2 for me was
and
up
that was living the lake life will cost you. And in our world of just modern day Christianity, the automatic, the go-to, and I'm even guilty of this at times, that it's easy to fall into the statements and the mindset of how good it is to be a Christian, the benefits of being a Christ follower. And there are obviously many, and of course, salvation being the obvious one. And, we talk about, peace in this life and all these things, but a week in which you emphasized, hey, there is a cost, that this isn't always sunshine and roses, that there is sacrifice involved, and that you are going to be asked to do things at times that are going to be hard. You're going to ask to give up things. I think that was such an important message, just because it's one that is kind of gets lost in modern Christianity, if we're not careful.
So watch, if you're hearing this, watch Lake Life week 2, but also watch Lake Life week 5, the Risk It and Jump. That one was the ticket for me, because you said something that I thought was pretty interesting when you were like, hey, 5 levels of change. You got to be aware of it. You got to ponder it. You've got to value it. But then you said, then there's a gap, right? This is important. Then there's a gap to prioritize it and then own it. And I thought, man, don't just listen. You said, just do something, which, hey, guess what? Paralleled from this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's all run together, but
it does run together.
Risk it and
Matt,
jump.
Before 2026, and we're only a couple days, make sure you go back and watch your week from that.
Did I preach in that week?
Give up and go to the lake.
Did I preach in that one?
I'm just saying.
He didn't really love that.
I
gave Matt. He's like, I don't want this title.
I'm trying to help him for 26.
Matt's like, I don't rest. I don't want any of that. But you need to. That's why I gave it to you.
But you're 100% right. And the amount of people that have come to me afterwards,
right,
that were like, oh my gosh, that week I needed.
Check this out if you think of how thoughts bleed together. So Matthew 16, 24, 25 of the Message in the Lake Life series, Jesus, it's like, says to his disciples, because this whole Lake Life was heavy.
Heavy.
Even for a summer series, we framed it in a different way, but it was tough.
Yeah.
He says, anyone who intends to come with me has to let me lead. You're not in the driver's seat. I am. How about that to come all together? Don't run from suffering, embrace it. We talked about that. Follow me and I'll show you how. Self-help is no help at all. And how did I just end last week's message? We love lights, but we don't want to put them up. And it's the same way with our faith. We love lights at a distance, but we don't want Christ to expose the mess in our garage or the knot in our relationships or the bulb that's out in our attitude. It's the same thing. We've got to let Christ we got to lead. We got to let Christ lead, and we follow. Yeah. And I think we all struggle with that. We love Christianity, but as long as we can control what we can control. But the whole series was no. Follow.
Yeah.
You got to follow. Lake Life, living authentic kingdom effective lives.
Loved it.
Next series, and this pretty simple. We don't want to go too long. Is When Music Speaks, straight from the Psalms. As much as I love Lake Life, and I think maybe where I was, I think that's really where it always, where I was in my mind and heart. I think music was, When Music Speaks was huge. Just from Psalms, a collection of unedited, honest song prayers. And I started with Psalm 1, and I started with All of Us on Two Roads. Yeah. We're going to let God lead, or it all comes together. And I think that was, for me, a very, very, very powerful series to think about what I'm pursuing in life, things that I need to be avoiding. What am I producing? I think of all that. And again, we come out of that whole idea of just, God, I got to give my life to you, and I want to be honest, and I want to live a life that has integrity, and who you are when nobody's looking is who you are, and what do I look for? And I don't know. I just loved When Music Speaks. I think it set the stage for sure for the Faith and Life Collide series, which I think is bringing our church on the brink of this vision with a blueprint.
we could tell, and behind the scenes, Pastor Mike, myself, and, we talked to you and we knew like the Psalms is where you were at that season.
Where I needed to be.
You needed to be,
I needed to
for
be
sure. But then, so even I thought I'm like, man, this is going to be a great series for you. That's kind of what I thought initially to start. But then as it unpacked, I thought, let's be honest, that's a great season for all of us.
Yeah.
We need to, you talked about, things to avoid, things to pursue, things to produce, things to cast away. And then you did Dust in the Wind. Like I was like,
very real life conversation. I remember probably the most correspondence was from When Music Speaks. I think because it spoke to a lot of people because God's work speaks.
Yeah. And
I just think we can see ourselves in David's life. We can see ourselves in the psalmist. We can see ourselves, hey, we're great here, been jacked up here. And just, if you're just honest, but yet at the end of the day, all of us are scared. We don't know what the future holds.
Yeah.
We just don't know. We don't want our life to be meaningless, and we definitely don't want to be on the wrong road.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people could feel that.
God, sometimes God feels far away. I just had a talk with a student about that on Saturday night, and they were super affected, and we feel like God's missing sometimes in our life, but we get distracted and we look up and we drift, and the Psalms, and Pastor Mike, I know you'll probably add to this, is David is so real life. He's not perfect, and he made mistakes, and he called out, and he was sorry, and then he was like, but God, I trust you. So I thought that was, I don't know, that series ended up being a surprise to me, to be honest.
It's one of the things that I like about when you go through the Psalms. I had a professor when I was going through school at Johnson that kind of impressed that on us. Said, and Pastor Brent, you talked about this during that series. He said, whatever you are reading in Scripture, make a point to put a chapter of Psalms or Proverbs as part of your daily reading. Just add that into whatever you're reading, because like you said, there's a lot of rawness in it. It's unfiltered, but yet there's so much that we can read and be encouraged, not only at the high points in the book of Psalms, but also in the low points, to be reminded that, hey, we're thousands of years apart, and yet we're all still feeling the same emotions. We struggle with the same things and all that. And and it is interesting because that particular message, one of the points that early on in the message you summarized, you said Psalm 1 is about making choices in life. And in my mind, that goes right back to what we've been talking about, and like you said, with the previous series, between I Am, between Bill Ford, all this, as we look at that, it's like, man, it's like we can struggle with, the issues of self-doubt. We can struggle with the sin in our life and all these things, but ultimately, and it came to life again this week, that ultimately it comes down to the choices that we make. That yes, things are going to happen to us that we can't control, and that is going to be outside of that, but we still have a choice how we respond in those moments too. And so, the book of Psalms is just that encouragement that, throughout, not just this one message, but throughout the entire book, that you can certainly identify those moments that you go, man, it's like I feel like I am David writing these words. Like his words could be my own journal. Like you've told us many times, you need to be journaling, which I'm terrible about. I'll confess that one.
So behind the scenes stuff, and if you're listening, this is interesting stuff, and it might make you go, We came off a series right before Simply Christmas, and we're closing the year down with Faith and Life Collide.
Yeah.
And I would put that as number one, but really those were some best of messages that I went back in time and said, okay, when I'm getting our church geared up for this next step of faith, whatever that vision looks like, these are things that I always want to bring out. After preaching all these years, I went back and tweaked them, but I went back to some very powerful. It's now we're not just coming to church getting about us. It's about us being the church. It's about us being, and so interesting behind the scenes is we talk about surging and imbalanced and waves that we rode. The Faith and Life Collide series should have been hugely attended, but it wasn't. It was okay, but it just wasn't like the year before. I mean, our numbers went through the roof because we were in a series called I Am Not Okay, the Jelly Roll song.
Yep.
And about everybody's anxiety and everybody's stress and depression, all about us. And this series was about us being the church, others. It was all about others. Mm-hmm. And you can feel it. You could feel the core surge and go, we're with you. but you can feel a lot of people like, well, I don't want to go to church and talk about others. I got too much going on. 100%. But the idea, and we'll end with this, is we went into Haggai, and I go back to this. We cannot get accustomed to the ruins. We cannot get focused on ourselves, and we cannot ever resist sacrificing again and again and again to make a difference in the kingdom of God. Yeah. And I knew that I'm going to kind of dig in. The core is going to surge, and we will have to dig all the fringe people back out of the ground. And they have come back for Christmas and all that. But it's like, I want a certain number of people, like, it's time for us to put some vision in motion and regain momentum into what we're going to do next. And so I really felt like, to me, that was a huge deal. I wouldn't put that as my top series. I like it, but those were kind of thoughts from years gone by. Yeah. But this year, I don't know. If you pinned me, I would say Listen to the Music was, or Behind, or whatever we named it. Listen to the Music was my favorite series in Psalms. Lake Life was great. Yeah. I think that was very creative for the summer, but I think it's just where I was personally. That's just going into the Psalms and understanding the choices that I make. So what would be your favorite, Lake Life?
Yeah, and I think that my Lake Life was my favorite series, but my favorite point you made all year, and it was in the Faith and Life Collide series, week 1. You talked about the car driving up the mountain. I love that story. My favorite story that you tell, hey, why are you stopping? Well, the view's good here. No, it's even better if you keep going up. Mm-hmm. But for me, the best point was your faith is only as good as the object you put your faith into. So that is all encompassing.
For sure.
It doesn't matter if you are a 5-year-old or if you are 105 years old. What you put your faith into.
Think of how many people are putting their faith into whatever.
That's the thing. And we hammer that point over and over again, that Christ is the only thing that'll fill you. Everything else will leave a hole. And I live my life like that, so I can relate, and I ride with that. And that's a passion point for me. So
what was your favorite, Mike? You got a favorite series?
Favorite series overall.
Man, Mike's going to say Lake Life, because your sermon, you killed it in Lake Life.
Well, I was going to say...
a lot of people talked about that.
I was going to say, it was a toss-up for me between Lake Life and When Music Speaks. Yeah. Just because...
When Music Speaks. Listen to the music. I think we've done that before.
We did that one. When Music That's okay.
Yeah, When Music Speaks.
Everybody knew. But one of those two for sure. I think just the overall themes of Lake Life, the discipleship theme, even the week you just alluded to, the Dominoes week, we talked a lot about sacrifice this year. And so I think that was just kind of, for me, that was something that was just kind of that recurring theme throughout the years we went through the different series, that it was like they kept jumping out over and over again. But yeah, one of those two series for sure would be the.
I don't know if I can pick a favorite sermon, but I think the Dominoes week.
Ooh, so
just
good.
Because I preached it before in a negative. I don't know if you remember that. Small things in life can lock down large things like our faith.
Right.
But I think a lot about the idea of we are all small by ourselves, but together, and our church was small and it's gotten larger. And I keep thinking, I wonder where we are in the domino. Surely to God, we're not the 7-foot tall domino.
Right. No.
And now but we might be somewhere way back in line, and God's got so much more for us to do together that we can knock down so many strongholds of the enemy. And I think about that often. I'm like, that to me, because I never really thought about that analogy, because we've used it. It's
right.
But in that sense, I thought, and I think it went over everybody's heads, but I'm like, man, that's good. That's a sermon gold illustration of where are we?
Yeah.
And if we resist and pull that one domino away, all these things that God wants us to do in the future might even be beyond us.
Yeah.
Probably is like we can lose it. And if we resist sacrifice, churches don't plateau and die just because, hey, let's plateau and die.
No, we're good.
Do it
we're good.
Because we're good. Yeah. So that is our momentum 2026 leads us into, hey, we're not good. Vision has got to be put in motion. So good things are coming 2026.
It's a good year. It was a good year.
It was, I just can't believe it's over. It's ridiculous how time flies.
Yeah.
But I'm throwing my phone out for 26. I won't have a cell phone in 26. That's not true. I can't say that at all.
But it's smart.
You would
get that brick.
Get
a brick or get something.
All right. Well, guys, if you're listening to that with us, if this is the 29th, 30th, or 31st, we do have church the last Wednesday, the last day of the year, normal schedule, and it's going to be good. Hoodie week is coming the 14th, 17th, and 18th. We're getting people online Hoodie Week, right? They get so just be a part of that. It's going to be a good unexpected, we're holding it secretly closed series to start. And it's been a journey. I'll just say that. It's been a journey.
People are going to be able to relate to this first
I think they will relate to it
so much.
Yeah. I'll say this, and I'll come out and say it even that week. Have you ever felt like a total success and a total failure at the same time? Like, what? That's what we're talking about. So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. We'll see you down the road. 2026 is here. Love you guys. Thanks.
Bye.